LETTER the ninth of Life in Mexico. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Life in Mexico by Francis Calderon de la Barca. LETTER the ninth. Visits from Spaniards. Visit from the President. Disquisition. Poblana dress. Bernardo the Matador. Bullfight extraordinary. Plaza de Toros. Fireworks. Portrait of C.N. Fancy ball. Dress. Costume of the patronesses. Beauty in Mexico. Doctor's visit. Cards of fair part. Marquesa de San Roman. Toilette in morning visits of ceremony. Attempt at robbery. Murder of a consul. La Guerra Rodriguez. Doctor Plan. M.D. Humboldt. Anecdote. Former customs. 5th January. Yesterday, Sunday, a great day here for visiting after mass is over. We had a concourse of Spaniards, all of whom seemed anxious to know whether or not I intended to wear a Poblana dress at the fancy ball, and seemed wonderfully interested about it. Two young ladies or women of Puebla, introduced by Señor , came to proffer their services in giving me all the necessary particulars, and dressed the hair of Josefa, a little Mexican girl, to show me how it should be arranged, mentioned several things still wanting, and told me that every one was much pleased at the idea of my going in a Poblana dress. I was rather surprised that every one should trouble themselves about it. About 12 o'clock, the president, in full uniform, attended by his aides de camp, paid me a visit, and sat about half an hour, very amiable as usual. Shortly after came more visits, and just as we had supposed they were all concluded, and we were going to dinner, we were told that the Secretary of State, the Ministers of War and of the Interior, and others were in the drawing room. And what do you think was the purport of their visit? To adjure me, by all that was most alarming, to discard the idea of making my appearance in a Poblana dress! They assured us that Poblanas generally were femmes de reine, that they wore no stockings, and that the wife of the Spanish Minister should by no means assume, even for one evening, such a costume. I brought in my dresses, showed their length and their propriety, but in vain; and, in fact, as to their being in the right, there could be no doubt, and nothing but a kind motive could have induced them to take this trouble; so I yielded with a good grace, and thanked the Cabinet Council for their timely warning, though fearing that in this land of procrastination it would be difficult to procure another dress for the fancy ball, for you must know that our luggage is still toiling its weary way on the backs of mules from Vera Cruz to the capital. They had scarcely gone when Señor brought a message from several of the principal ladies here, whom we do not even know, and who had requested that as a stranger I should be informed of the reasons which render the Poblana dress objectionable in this country, especially on any public occasion like this ball. I was really thankful for my escape. Just as I was dressing for dinner, a note was brought, marked "Reservada" (private), the contents of which appeared to me more odd than pleasant. I have since heard, however, that the writer, Don José Arnaiz, is an old man and a sort of privileged character, who interferes in everything, whether it concerns him or not. I translate it for your benefit. The dress of a Poblana is that of a woman of no character. The lady of the Spanish Minister is a lady in every sense of the word. However much she may have compromised herself, she ought neither to go as a Poblana, nor in any other character but her own. So says to the Señor de C n José Arnaiz, who esteems him as much as possible. 6th. Early this morning, this being the day of the bullfight extraordinary, placards were put up, as I understand, on all the corners of the streets, announcing it, accompanied by a portrait of C n. Count C a came soon after breakfast, accompanied by Bernardo, the first matador, whom he brought to present to us. I send you the white satin note of invitation, with its silver lace and tassels, to show you how beautifully they can get up such things here. The matador is a handsome but heavy-looking man, though said to be active and skilful. To-morrow I shall write you an account of my first bull fight. 7th. Yesterday, towards the afternoon, there were great fears of rain, which would have caused a postponement of the combat. However, the day cleared up, the bulls little knowing how much their fate depended upon the clouds. A box in the centre, with a carpet and a silver lamp, had been prepared for us, but we went with our friends, the C.A.'s, into their box adjoining. The scene, to me especially, who have not seen the magnificence of the Madrid arena, was animating and brilliant in the highest degree. Fancy an immense amphitheatre, with four great tiers of boxes, and a range of uncovered seats in front. The whole crowded almost to suffocation. The boxes filled with ladies in full dress, and the seats below by gaily dressed and most enthusiastic spectators. Two military bands of music, playing beautiful airs from the operas, an extraordinary variety of brilliant costumes, all lighted up by the eternally deep blue sky, ladies and peasants and officers in full uniform, and you may conceive that it must have been altogether a varied and curious spectacle. About 6:30 a flourish of trumpets announced the president, who came in uniform with his staff, and took his seat to the music of Guerra, Guerra, y Belleci Trombi. Shortly after the matadors and picadors, the former on foot, the latter on horseback, made their entry, saluting all around the arena, and were received with loud cheering. Bernardo's dress of blue and silver was very superb, and cost him $500. The signal was given, the gates were thrown open, and a bull sprang into the arena. Not a great fierce looking animal, as they are in Spain, but a small, angry, wild looking beast, with a troubled eye. Thrice sounds the clarion, lo! the signal falls, the den expands, and expectation mute gapes round the silent circle's peopled walls. Bounds with one lashing spring the mighty brute, and wildly staring spurns with sounding foot the sand, nor blindly rushes on his foe. Here, there, he points his threatening front to suit his first attack, wide waving to and fro his angry tail, red rolls his eyes' dilated glow. A picture equally correct and poetical. That first pose of the bull is superb. Pasta in her media did not surpass it. Meanwhile the matadors and the banderilleros shook their colored scarfs at him, the picadors poked at him with their lances. He rushed at the front and tossed up the scarfs which they threw at him, while they sprung over the arena, galloped after the others, striking the horses, so that, along with their riders, they occasionally rolled in the dust, both, however, almost instantly recovering their equilibrium, in which there is no time to be lost. Then the matadors would throw fireworks, crackers adorned with streaming ribbons, which stuck on his horns, as he tossed his head, enveloped him in a blaze of fire. Occasionally the picador would catch hold of the bull's tail, and passing it under his own right leg, wheel his horse around, force the bullock to gallop backwards, and throw him on his face. Maddened with pain, streaming with blood, stuck full of darts, and covered with fireworks, the unfortunate beast went galloping round and round, plunging blindly at man and horse, and frequently trying to leap the barrier, but driven back by the waving hats and shouting of the crowd. At last, as he stood at bay and nearly exhausted, the matador ran up and gave him the mortal blow, considered a peculiar proof of skill. The bull stopped as if he felt that his hour were come, staggered, made a few plunges at nothing, and fell. A finishing stroke, and the bull expired. The trumpets sounded, the music played, four horses galloped in tied to a yoke to which the bull was fastened, and swiftly dragged out of the arena. This last part had a fine effect, reminding one of the Roman sacrifices. In a similar manner 8 bulls were done to death. The scene is altogether fine, the address amusing, but the wounding and tormenting of the bull is sickening, and as here the tips of his horns are blunted, one has more sympathy with him than with his human adversaries. It cannot be good to accustom a people to such bloody sights. Yet let me confess that though at first I covered my face and could not look, little by little I grew so much interested in the scene that I could not take my eyes off it, and I can easily understand the pleasure taken in these barbarous diversions by those accustomed to them from childhood. The bull fight having terminated amidst loud and prolonged cheering from the crowd, a tree of fireworks erected in the midst of the arena was lighted, and amidst a blaze of coloured light appeared